Hey guys, it's Emma here and I have my recent reads favourite read for June. So as always I've got my Goodreads app here, so let's just get started. So the first thing I read in June was book 5 of the Crawlers series I've been reading with my Kindle Unlimited subscription. So the 5th book is called Off the Rails. Then I read one of my partner's comics, The Secret History of D.B. Cooper, and another of his comics, The Fade Out. Then I carried on with my Crawlers series, so I read book 6, which is called Carry a Big Stick, and then book 7, which is the final book in the series, which is called The Beginning of the End. Then I was still making my way through old Box of Stories boxes, so I think this was from the sci-fi and fantasy one, I think from January, so it was The City of Lost Fortunes. And I read one of the books, it's like a magazine, but it's basically a book of short stories that comes in the Abominable Book Club box sometimes, which was Black Static, and that's basically issue 78 and 79, but it was all short stories, there was no other things in it, it was just a book of short stories, so I counted it. And the next thing I read was from my fiction box of stories, I think, so this would have been my last fiction box, which I think was in January. And it's The Song of the Stork. Then another book from the fiction box is The Portrait. And another one, I think from the fiction box, but it could have been the sci-fi fantasy one, is The Assistant. And the last thing I read in June was also one of the books from the fiction box, my box of stories from January, which is My Life as a Rat. So that was everything I read in June, not as much as some other months, because as I say, I was trying to get through books, so it was less comics this month, and I was just focusing on the books that I physically have, along with the Kindle Unlimited subscriptions. There was nothing that really jumped out at me this month that was absolutely amazing, so it's quite hard to decide what my favourite one is. I read a lot of good books, but I didn't feel like there was maybe anything that was, that stood out specifically and was absolutely fantastic. So what I'm gonna pick, I'm kind of cheating, but what I'm gonna pick is one of the Crawlers books. So the last one, book 7, as my favourite read. So basically, as I said, that was the last book in the series. It brings the story to a close. I really did enjoy this series on Kindle Unlimited. So as I said, it was the 7 books, and it's basically zombie apocalypse set in now, but they've found the zombie outbreak basically begins in Egypt, in the a pharaoh, like a tomb that they've discovered. It starts there and it spreads from there to America, where the books are mainly set, and it follows the characters from a family in America and just how they're surviving. And as I say, it goes on for 7 books, so it does get into quite a lot of things and starting to try and rebuild instead of just trying to survive. And I did really like the ending, because without spoiling anything, basically it's not a lovey-dovey, easy peasy happy ending for everyone. It's a bit more, slightly more realistic. I think some of the people wouldn't have survived as long as they survived, really, but we're talking about a zombie apocalypse, so realistic, I don't know. But yeah, I did like the way they ended it, that it wasn't this perfect happy ending. It was more, as I say, it was more realistic. So I would recommend that series, especially if you have a Kindle Unlimited subscription, because it's part of your subscription. You don't have to pay anything to read them, and you just, like a library, you just borrow them and then put them back again. So yes, that is the books, series of books that I'm going to pick basically as my favourite read for June. And yeah, hopefully for this month there will be much more things that stand out, and I'll have a much easier time trying to pick my favourite read. But that is it for this one, guys. So any comments, leave them down below, share with your friends, give it a thumbs up, and I will catch you next time, guys. Bye!